go ahead, take a deep breath, pull it in, hold, and let it out. You're here today to develop and strengthen your mindset because you know that weekly training sessions in mindfulness is the missing link the world is searching for when it comes to business success. So set aside the external logistical side of business growth and come with me now to a world of focus, purpose, calm, confidence, and personal power using NLP and CBT tools and techniques. I am your host, Leah Marie, and you're listening to Flip the Switch. Hello, and welcome back to another episode. I'm so excited to connect with you guys today. So today's podcast is all about a topic that affects all of us, especially for those who seek new opportunities for growth and development. Those of us that are the entrepreneurs, those of us that are wanting to scale and build and just push the limits and see what we can truly create. So this is what we're going to talk about, and I wanted to start off with a story. But before I get to that story, which is actually kind of funny in its own way, and yet kind of devastating at the same time, what you are going to learn inside of this podcast is I'm going to take you into the 4 phases of growth that bring the results that you want. So we're going to look at the rules for growth, bringing the results that you want. And there are 4 different phases to that we are going to look at, as well as a bonus that starts it and a bonus that ends it for each of those pieces. So let's go ahead and jump into that now. At the time of this recording, we are preparing to go to our family's cabin in a couple of weeks, and I can't wait. Now, as I was thinking about this and reflecting back to last summer's visit, I recalled my oldest son wanting to learn to kneeboard. Now, like many of us, when we see a new and exciting opportunity, we want to jump right in, and that's exactly what he did. He sat on the dock with his anticipation playing out all of the possibilities in his mind as he watched his cousins just skimming across the water and having so much fun. Of course, he pictured what it would feel like carving through the water, all the tricks that he'd be able to do, and feeling the pull of the rope and the spray of the boat as it took him on this adventure. The time had come, and he was ready to go. He put on the life jacket, which of course was soaking wet from his cousins. Okay, so he's got the jacket on, and he's got the anticipation of a lifetime. So excited to jump in and show off all the tricks. He gets in the water, and with the rope in his hands and the board under him, he is ready to go, already playing out all the fun he'll have, which of course means that he's only half listening to the instructions that are being shouted over the water from the boat. He gives the thumbs up, the boat launches into action. Now, unfortunately, the story was different on the other end of the rope. In an effort to get up, my son had leaned forward too quickly and now was in a complete nosedive, having water fill his mouth and ears and nose and everything else. He plunged headfirst into the water and, of course, the rope tore free from his grasp. Needless to say, when he popped up, he was mad as a hornet, mostly because he was so embarrassed, and of course, his arms were aching like crazy. He decided right then and there that kneeboarding was a stupid sport and he was done. So, what does this all have to do with you and me, with us as entrepreneurs? Well, let me tell you, we do the same thing all the time, don't we? Without even knowing that we are running into this behavior or thought loop. We jump right into the middle of taking action on a new and exciting adventure without even considering the first steps. And then we wonder why building a business is so consuming, so hard, so emotional. And yet sometimes it's rewarding, but it can also be completely draining. So why do we do this? Why do we jump right into step 3? And what the heck is step 1 and 2 anyways? Well, we are going to jump right into this next. Like my son, we want to go right into the fun part of doing the thing when we haven't even stopped to realize that we've jumped into the middle of the sequence, and so it catches us unprepared, frustrated, and exhausted. Now, of course, this isn't entirely your fault. We're a product of the systems in many ways. Although the rules of growth are all around us, we never were formally taught them, at least for many of us. So, what are the rules of growth? First, let's start off with what creates the movement towards growth, and that would be a catalyst. Now, of course, we have an internal or an external catalyst, depending upon what the experience is for us individually. Now, an internal catalyst, of course, is a probing desire that comes from our internal thoughts and feelings towards creating or doing or exploring. And an external would be something coming from the outside. So an opportunity presented to us, maybe a change in our environment that pushes us to need to grow and move and change. So we start out with a catalyst of internal or external change, and then this is when we can start going into the phases of growth. Now, if we were to go ahead and follow them accurately to get the results that we want, it would look something like this. Phase 1 is our educating. This is where we are learning and educating ourselves about the thing that we want. If you try to skip the learning phase, you'll either get discouraged or overwhelmed, which both will stop you in your tracks. Learning brings more awareness and prepares you to understand, which lifts fears and overwhelms. Now, once we have some learning under our belt and we can tell whether this is the direction we want to go and if it's something that's still of interest to us and what possibilities could arise that could be a challenge or a difficulty to us, we can move into the testing phase where we experiment upon what works for me, what doesn't work. Now, this is great because it actually removes the pressure because we are not expecting perfection. We are only in a testing phase. It allows for us to bring in curiosity in the place of judgment and remove that guilt or criticism, removing perfectionism. It gives us the ability to also see results. Once we start seeing regular results, then we can start getting an idea of what truly is working and what isn't, and what our preferred method of use is in this new area. And that is when we go into the next phase, which is the doing phase. This is where we start actually implementing on a regular basis what we have learned. This is where we are able to create a rhythm and know what patterns we want and to build up our repeated results, getting confidence, getting testimonials, all of those things that truly start moving us forward into the next stage, which is being. Being brings with it a sense of momentum, getting recognition, getting rewards, maybe even a sense of celebrating. And it's that point where we really feel like this fits us and there's such a smooth, consistent cadence to our efforts. Now, there is a secret that we do need to bring up that a lot of people can get hung up on or hooked up on if they are not watching for it and aware of it. The key to making this all work is understanding that resistance is there and that resistance is not the thing to push against. Resistance does not mean that you made the wrong choice or that the journey is in the wrong direction. Resistance is actually needed for you to strengthen yourself, for you to build, for you to gain and become more. It is something that flows through each one of the phases. Something that's very cool to note is that although it comes and goes throughout each of the phases, knowing that it's not necessarily always going to be consistent is important, because in some phases it's going to show up more than others. And something that you should expect is that it's going to show up. So don't try to run from it. Don't push against it. Instead, get to know it so you can work with it. Take time to understand it. The deeper and more intimately you know that struggle, the more you can work with it, the more you can leverage it. So now that we know that there's a catalyst, that there's 4 phases of growth to go through, and then that there's that secret sauce of resistance that actually helps us develop and become greater, what do we do with this? How do we use it most effectively in order to help us become who we want to become and get the results that we want to get. This is the perfect spot for us to pause for a moment and consider what happens when a person is at risk of losing their life, right? So somebody is at risk of losing their life, and we're thinking, okay, well, if we can liken this into our business, we are at risk of losing our business. We are not moving forward, we are not growing, and we are basically, this opportunity is going to become dead unto us if we do not make some change and do it quickly. So what do we do in real life? We do CPR. So what is the CPR when it comes to our business and understanding the growth phases that we are in so that we can actually get the results we want so that our businesses do not become dead to us or our opportunities become dead to us. So the C stands for call it. What we want to do inside of call it is we want to evaluate where are we on this journey. Look at each of the phases and try to understand, did I skip a phase? Do I need to go back and make sure that I implement that phase? Because if you try to skip a phase or have a detour around it or anything like that, things will get harder and more difficult until you are forced back. So the C in CPR is call it. Evaluate where you are on this journey. Now the P is prioritize. What we want to do is after we've figured out where we are on the journey is we want to be able to look at the different areas of our life and our business and figure out which one needs our area of attention first. Where do we need to start first? What is the priority? Then the R for CPR is realign. We want to get back on track and do it right because we understand that when we slow down and we do it right, it's actually faster. That's where that saying, slow is smooth, smooth is fast, comes from. So as we circle back, let's take the recap. The first thing that happens is we've got a catalyst, an internal or an external. And then we move into our phase 1, which is educating ourselves and learning ourselves about what needs to happen. That looks like asking a lot of questions of people who have already taken that journey, as well as maybe even finding a mentor to take you on this journey. Phase 2 is experimentation. This is where we're testing the phase. This is where we're testing everything that we have learned to figure out what works properly, what works for us in our business or in our lives. Phase 3 is doing it. Now that we have tested it and we've gotten some results, now we're going to actively start doing it. This is the phase that most people jump straight into without having had any education or testing to figure out what will work. And then phase 4 is the being. That is when you can fully step into who you are inside of that space. Now remember, the secret is to accept that there is going to be resistance. Now for more information on how resistance plays a major role and how to use this knowledge as leverage, join me in the Facebook group this week, Flip the Switch, where I'm going to dive deep into this topic further and uncover the hang-ups and potential pitfalls that will stop you in your tracks unless you, of course, know what to look for and how to respond at a moment's notice. So if you are listening to this down the road, jump into the Facebook group and look for the replay of this deep dive. Otherwise, I will see you this coming week, and the link is facebook.com/groups/I am master of me. That's the Flip the Switch Facebook group. I will also put the link in the show notes, and I would love to be able to connect with you and see you there because we are going to have so much fun going deeper into this as well as deeper into each of these phases. And I can't wait to see you guys there, and I will talk to you soon. I want to sincerely thank you and appreciate you today for showing up here on Flip the Switch. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a training session in your mindset mastery, leveling up your business success. And be a good friend. Share this episode with a fellow business builder. I'll see you next week, same time, same place.